Now, this Prime Minister of the Southern Cameroon, under the using the two alternatives, he had administrative authority, he had the economic development in his own hands, and of course, security in general was going to be a matter for which could be discussed, you see, to make it both for the federal government, or what we call concurrent. That is to say, the Prime Minister of the Southern Cameroon was going to be in charge of the police, and the army could be national, territorial. We didn't think of the gendarme to be extended in the Southern Cameroon for any reason. It was because when there was no constitution, that he managed to send the gendarme in the Southern Cameroon, and gradually now posting all this there, his obedient troops, that is obedient civil servants, and they can do anything. They are protected by him, so anything could happen.
When did the gendarmes come into West Cameroon? Into Southern Cameroon?
Let's say as soon as the British troops left. You know, the British trained a mobile wing, with not many at all. So the gendarme came to help the mobile wing, and to man some of the places. And when they came, the mobile wing was holding some part of the stations, and they were holding other parts. But they despised the mobile wing, whereas the mobile wing also despised them, because they had no form of military maneuver as they. Most of the terrorists were captured by the mobile wing, Southern Cameroon mobile wing. They combed the frontiers of the Mongo, Santa, and brought out some of the terrorists who were happening there. And of course, it was the Nigerian, from Nigeria, I mean the Nigerian forces which left Nigeria. People, general like General Tato and others, who really did the combing of the frontier without killing. They didn't kill the terrorists. They rounded them up, used them to find out where the others were, treated them well, and then bring peace. The Southern the Southern Cameroon had nothing to administer with the taking over of the, or with the dissolution of the National Assembly and the House of Chiefs and everything. There was no authority in the Southern Cameroon. That's what is called annexation. Annexation went much further, that anything that existed in the Southern Cameroon was not allowed to remain under that name. First, the Cameroon Bank, which had outgrown other banks in La Republic, was the source of income by people from Douala, Kongsamba, and all these other places who want money for trading. Before that time, before 1970 something, before 1970 something, no bank in La Republic could borrow money, give a loan up to 1 million. If you want a loan up to beyond the 500,000, you have to fly to France. Only France will approve it. But the Cameroon Bank had risen to loan money to 5 million. So traders in Douala and along the Mango and furthermore were able to get enough loan. That was not so good for Ahidjo. That was why then everything, Southern Cameroon must fall. We organized the development agency to give loans to farmers and so on, to businessmen. And more so, Nanga company was rising up to compete to other companies, the French company. And had in fact built the Prime Minister's office in the Southern Cameroon out of a mere 45 million francs at that time. But a building like that could have cost no less than 150 million. But using the English way of economy and way of organizing labor, Nanga company was able to do it for 45 million. That was a slap on the face of the Republic of Cameroon. It was an indication that the British were going to abolish or more or less lessen the amount of bribes and the money they get from the contracts. And so everything was, by not signing the draft constitution, everything fell in the hands of Ahidjo. One of the next project which we had was lottery. I sent a team to Israel to train for lottery. They came and established a rapidly growing lottery, and we were getting the money now to build hospitals and clinics. Ahidjo didn't want the people of his own section to patronize our lottery. The Prime Minister, Sali, was a Prime Minister. I negotiated with him, but Ahidjo did not agree. That the people of the same country. Now I said we were going to share the profits. Ahidjo did not agree. Then after 1970, then he transferred it. It became central. Now the Youth Day was formed in the Southern Cameroon to commemorate independence for the Southern Cameroon, Independence Day, which was the plebiscite day. Because there was no other greater thing achieved in the Southern Cameroon than by voting so massively for independence and unification. The 11th February is a historic day for the Southern Cameroon, which should be commemorated. That was formed by me and my government of the Southern Cameroon in 1964. Then 1968, well, the East Cameroon were want to imitate it. So Ahidjo thought it should be centralized. It should be made central. So he centralized it to be also practiced in all parts of the federation. That was 1960, about 1968, 4 years after. But he did not say that it was there. It was it was started in 1968, he said. Imagine, I think, which was being run in the Southern Cameroon since 1954. When he transferred it, he didn't mention the Southern Cameroon. It was originated in 1968 or 1966. It might have been 1966 when he transferred it between these two dates. So Cameroon, Southern Cameroon was tinning coffee, and this coffee was of standard to merit exportation. And as a matter of fact, a good part of it was being exported. In the name of label, the name of Southern Cameroon, CDC. Tea was the same. Ahidjo saw to it that the Santa Coffee Estate was abolished. And so there was no other means of the Southern Cameroon, you see, running, getting its own independent income. So all the income, we must look to Yaoundé as the only father of the federation to do everything. And now, the Prime Minister of the Southern Cameroon was going to be left with no duty. So he has to abolish it. And in the practice of francophone, and then not French, as we may say, if you are assistant to any post in Yaoundé, you are just there either to get your money and do what the president say, or you might as well resign. Money to keep people in a post was not their difficult. It was obedient to their party and keep as a subordinate. And with us, that was not possible. We were not running that much. So he had to get a new set of people, you see, who had to toe his line of action. I found myself, you see, incapable of doing things in a very awkward way, in obedience to the head of state. Because I insisted that anything that I do should reflect my own mentality. And everything that I did which was going to do that was abolished. I was charged with the president or national president or chairman of the Higher National Council for Education. And I held that post up till the time I left, or before the time I left. I had talked so much about technical education that in the end a good subsidy from the United States President, I think President Agnew, gave $10 million. That was a big sum of money at that time for technical education. And I told Ahidjo that I would like the Southern Cameroon to benefit from that 10 million by raising the technical college of Ombe to a higher technical college and institute as at the beginning one in Bamenda. But Ahidjo spent all that money on his own side. Instead, I never knew that that was his ways of doing things. Instead, it is centralized, about the downgraded the Ombe Trade Center Technical College to the grade of his own cap. All the heavy equipment left by the British were looted. Everything was run, and then he transferred all the British trained teachers there. He transferred them to teach secondary school. Then I had sent to the state of Wisconsin 12 teachers to study a few years for the industrial subjects in both primary school and the new colleges which might be built. Then these finished their qualification and came back about 1966. Not one of them was posted in Limbe, so they were made to teach English in other schools, and nothing was mentioned about technical education, and so on. So the University of Caste, Technical University of Caste, which was to be built, which was one of those which was to be built alongside with the University of Yaoundé. We couldn't get teachers in those days, we couldn't get funds in those days. And the United States sponsored the Peace Corps and the principal who opened the pre-university of caste in the form of higher secondary school. It grew so rapidly and got the CDC at very good rate. Their successes in the GCE advanced, especially their scientific knowledge, was high. Ahidjo and the rest, detected that and started dwarfing them in the Polytechnic of Yaoundé. So much that by 1985, the number of English students who left caste and entered very great difficulty were under 10. All those who were entered there found the condition either so bad that they managed to leave, or those which remained. Out of the whole time since 85, under 10 out of 400 who have graduated in the Polytechnic School of Yaoundé. So I noted that Ahidjo wanted to dwarf Southern Cameroon as far as School of Technology was concerned. And later on, when he decided to decentralize the University of Yaoundé, he left the University of Caste not mentioned. He later on proposed a university for Biya. And you know how long that took. He put the name after he had been approached. I've asked him, he proposed that one. Now he didn't want to do anything with caste in order to keep the northwest and southwest, divided. So he proposed a university a university with no anything. Probably it was going to be a university of culture. He later on made it a translation bureau, as we call it. How could a whole university be for translation? And so it was built. Those buildings were with equipment, with no equipment, and with a number of teachers. What were they teaching? About less than 100 students were there for the whole university. It was recently when Paul Biya found me trying to raise so much objection for rejecting the Southern Cameroonian in the technical education, technical University of Douala. When he started trying to allow very few to enter, very few English-speaking Cameroonians to enter. Otherwise, they wanted to dwarf Southern Cameroon from any technical rising. They had found our scientific knowledge high, our secondary school organization high. They want to abolish the GCE in '85. When I stepped in, and they brutalized our students. When I stepped in to quarrel with Paul Biya, they brutalized the students. I took them to task in the Central Committee meeting, and then the only persons who could support me was the late Dr. Fonlong and Professor Ngu. And they made it clear. And during that time too, after our students were brutalized, I summoned a meeting of Ndele, Muna, Egbe, and myself to meet in Yaoundé and then discuss the matter with the president. The day I arrived, I flew to Yaoundé. None of them appeared. They were still my opponent. Ndele did not come, Muna did not come. And so that failed. And I wrote to Ahidjo. I wrote to Paul Biya, asking him that he wants to discipline our sons and daughters out of our own intervention. I asked him whether he would be able to do that. And the security men said at that time that if the students demonstrate, we're going to shoot. I called the deputy minister in charge of the Gendarmerie and asked, do they not know that that was annoying, whether when they shoot any student for demonstration, I will sit with them? Or they simply answered, well, it was a mere threat to frighten them. So we don't frighten people by talking about shooting. Told him whether he had known that students in some part of the world burn themselves with petrol for protests, and whether by that frightening the English people will stop bringing their voices to be heard.